Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of the Super Formula 23 B Open Series, right here live on VSPEED. All thanks to the partnership with SimRacingNation.com, making this possible for us here on the channel. Brought to you in part by Graham Crackers Racing. No matter if you're searching for speed or a place to race, you found it. Stop by Graham Crackers Racing Discord server, where everybody's welcome. Looking for a team? You're in luck. We are actively recruiting for both our Super Formula 23 and NASCAR teams. You can join them by using the link in the description below. And don't forget to check out Race Ready 3D's link in the same video description. I'm your host, Logan Threlkeld, stepping in this afternoon, taking the controls of the production truck. We have Bradley Cooper with cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Bradley, how's it been, man? It's been a little while since we've had you on the Super Formula 23 series.
Yeah, I think you had a week off there, and you came back last week at Indy, and now I'm back in the production booth. So it's neat to kind of come back early in the season and maybe get my bearings straightened out, as we're only 3 weeks into this season so far.
Very, very early here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. It is going to be a very fast-paced race the entire time through. We were seeing some qualifying times very quick down into the 1 minute 10 second bracket as we got the track graphic up on the screen. 2.68 miles around the circuit, a little bit of elevation change that you can see as we get through the middle portion back to the start finish line. 14 corners in total, and again, it is a very fast-paced track. There's a lot of flowy corners to it. A couple straightaways that we'll see some of the top speeds, not quite up to full song for these cars, but yet still very fast. Bringing the points up on your screen now, Dan Yang takes over control of the #1 spot here. Rohan Sanir in P2 for the standings. Dennis Branch, Elliott Cott, Joao Gregorio taking up the 5th place spot. Max Gould, Gonzalo Perez, Brett Greaves, Marcos Alerson, and Gabriel Hopp rounding out the top 10. And it's only 3 weeks in. There's still a lot of racing to go. But here we are gridding up for Red Bull Ring. What are you expecting to see from these drivers here tonight, Bradley?
I would expect them to find their balance in this car. 29 laps, that doesn't seem like a lot, but here it's going to be over a half an hour of driving, and you don't want to pace yourself too fast in the first opening laps, burn up these tires. It's going to be kind of that balancing act all the way through. You want to save something for the last 3 or 4.
We'll cycle through the starting grid here, but the green light is about to go off, and we are away for lap number 1 already at the Red Bull Ring. It's a scramble down into turn 1, nearly 3 wide coming up the hill, but there it is. Kevin Jansu Foster taking away the lead already.
Oh, wow. Big trouble in the back.
Big trouble. A massive crash out of turn number 1 coming down to turn number 2. We've got multiple wrecked race cars on the track, but it's still a scramble at the front. Timothy Larson battling it out with JT Smeaton for P2. Jansu Foster narrowly escapes that battle. Larson looked to the outside, but now all 3 will snake down into the corner here through the midsection of the track. Here's that flowy state that you need to find. Once these tires come up to temperature, it will only get faster here. Very smooth through the midsection. Let's see what kind of lap time Jansu Foster will come away with. To start the race, will be a little bit off pace, but expect that lap time to come around rather quickly. Again, 1 minute 10-second lap times in the practicing session. Very quick drivers out here today. Strength of field tonight, 4,662, I believe. It's not the highest that we've seen, but a 24-car field nonetheless. That makes the racing all that much more exciting.
So we're going to take it back on a replay here, Logan. Sorry, it's kind of used to working with Morgan on this Sunday thing, but take it back here and watch what happened. This is Dennis Cornu, and I think Tavares and a few others were involved. This is actually way after the fact. So we're going to back this up even more. This is the initial start, and this happens out of turn 1. A lot of cars get destroyed right here.
Had one catch some air there. Can't quite get the number, but multiple completely
it was
destroyed.
The 6th car of Tavares. Well, actually, into the wall. There was another car, Machado, into 16.
Miguel Facciato, Valerio Tavares, both out of the race early. Dennis Cornu caught up in it as well. The 14 of Elliott caught, not making it out of turn number 1. A couple drivers already using that push-to-pass system. Rohan Sanir, JT Smeaton, Marcos Alarcon up in the top 5 have already used about 15 to 20 seconds respectively. They are holding on to that position for dear life right now. Tristan Heelman has made it up 8 positions from that 19th starting spot to 11th, avoiding all of the carnage out of turn 1 on the first lap.
These beautiful camera angles provided here by Dougie Beard. Love to see it. Adds to the immersion of this race. And I mean, if Red Bull wasn't already difficult enough, now they're throwing gravel all over it.
It will certainly unsettle these race cars a little bit. Any type of debris on the tire can certainly hinder the braking ability. So we make it down through turns 13 and 14 back to that start finish line. You can see we're pretty well single filed out. We see it week after week where these drivers start to form their own small packs within the race. We've got a set of 2 up there at the front. More issues. I believe that's the 2. Nikolaj Rugeviu started out in P4, will now fall all the way to the back of the field here of the remaining drivers. Back to P19, Dan Yang, the only driver behind in P20. Let's take it back here on the replay and see what happened. Bradley, break it down for us.
I think he just locked it up. Maybe the rumble strips got him loose. Yeah, he got out too wide there. And he's able to keep it off the wall. He doesn't get any contact with any cars, but he does have a lot of debris on those tires. It'll take probably half a lap for him to get back up to full song. It's always unsettling. You make a mistake like that, and then you start second guessing your entry and exit points. He probably practiced that 1,000 times this week. And there's just that 1 in 1,000 it takes to send this car around.
Just a little too hard on the accelerator considering the placement of those outside tires. There is on top of the rumble strip, there's also a small hump there. You can see it at the top of the screen there coming out of that corner. It's very slight, but it's enough to completely ruin the grip level that these cars come with. Down into turn 1, out of turn 2, on board now with Timothy Larson. Still trying to chase down Jansu Foster, and that Ford machine started on the pole, has led all the laps so far. Larson started out in P2, JT Smeaton started out in P3. They've all held on to their positions. Timothy Larson has about 50 seconds remaining before he can use that push-to-pass system again. Jansu Foster, we've seen it time and time again, week after week, will not use any of that push to pass until the final few laps to try to set the fastest lap of the race. Feels comfortable enough right now. Does not need to use it to get away from Timothy Freeze Larson. Very fast drivers up here at the front of the pack. However, JT Smeaton keeping himself in the picture, just 1.4 seconds behind.
Well, it's worth mentioning here, Logan, as well, and a lot of people in the chat talking about it. There is rain on the radar for this one. High chance that we're going to see a rain shower, if not a downpour, before the end of this session. Somewhere within the next 10 laps, we could see it start to rain. It's mostly cloudy, 73 degrees on the track, 66 the ambient air. Track should be good and gripped up until that rain starts to fall.
Looking at the weather radar here in the sim, I'm seeing an approximated time of 2:30. So we've got about 30 minutes here before the rain starts to come down. We'll be in the final few laps. We'll likely see some of those sprinkles coming into play in about 15 to 20 minutes, if not sooner. So there's an added aspect to the race. We haven't seen it quite yet, at least not with myself in the booth. I have not witnessed these cars handle the rain. So we're looking forward to seeing what these drivers can do. Hopefully they got their practice in some of the wet conditions, because that will be game-changing.
Hopefully my graphics are set right for it as well.
Fingers crossed, we'll find out soon enough as Jansu Foster dives down into turn 1. Still holding on to about a 0.6 of a second lead over Timothy Freeze Larson. Through the rest of the field, Simon Scholes, currently our biggest mover, in the 8th position, up from 16th, but not to be rivaled with Larry Johnson, up 7 spots from 17th to 10th, as well as Tristan Heilman. He is still up 7 positions from 19th to 12th. A couple big movers in this race, and they still have ground to cover.
You're watching here with just a couple hundredths separating 13th and 12th position, as Hillman will go to the inside. I think they touched tires there off the corner.
A little bit of contact, but they keep it racing here. Good tight battle between the three. A little bit of a bobble, however. Gets itself sorted. We've got change in position now. Battle right back, taking a look to the outside. Can't quite beat him down into the braking. Keeps it right behind as we work our way back across the front stretch to start lap number 8 for these drivers. Like I said, it's going to go very quickly. Our drivers right now turning lap times. Fastest lap in the field, Jansu Foster with a 1:11.320. Timothy Freeze Larson, 1:11.455. Multiple drivers in the 1 minute 11 second bracket. The rest of the field sorting themselves out about 1 minute 12 seconds. Very quick pace for every single driver out here. Nobody's really fallen back to the 113s yet.
And you mentioned 110s there in practice and in qualifying. I think that was the tempo I was talking about in the pre-race, where these guys are going to dial it back a little bit and have something for the end of this race. You were also mentioning Larson and Foster. They'll wait until the last 2 or 3 laps and turn the fastest that they have all night. I think that's going to be the key, is just saving those tires to where you can do that. And when you start to use that push to pass system, then you're going to have tires underneath of you to make it possible.
The 22, Jack McCauley, has issues back at the back of the field, running P18. Nate Berlin able to get around. Looked like Jack McCauley, just a slight bobble out of the corner. Ends up in the grass. There it is. Spins it around. No contact with the wall, however, and gets it quickly moving again. You do not want to stay stationary in these cars. They will hunker down and bottom out. That is a forced tow back to the pits, a very long tow at that. Back to the live action here. Looking for a battle in the field. Looks like we've got a battle forming between Simon Scholes and Daniel in the 18. The position P8 goes to Daniel in the 18. Simon Scholes falls back to P9. Still in the top 10, however.
I was sorry about that, but I saw the battle for the lead get down to about 2/10. They're heating up again.
It will continue to be like that. Timothy Freeze Larson looking to take home a victory today. Kevin Foster, no stranger to the top step of the podium. JT Smeaton has fallen back to almost 3 seconds. He's bouncing around that 2.5 to 3 second margin behind our second place driver. These two have run away with it for now. The sunshine comes back out, but we know what is coming. A little bit of rain still yet to get here. It could be any given moment. You can see on board some of those clouds there off on the left-hand side of the screen. Some of them even off there on the right over the hilltops. That's got to be something that you want to think about as these drivers make their way around on lap 10. Just how many laps can you get completed before you're forced to switch over to those wet tires, Bradley?
Well, and being out in a mountain range like this, the weather can change like that. Not sure how accurate iRacing is with their weather and their data from that, but especially here in a location like this, it can be completely sunny and then 5 minutes later, it's a downpour. And with the temperatures the way they are right now, it would not surprise me if it does rain. It cooled off again. I think it's went down another couple degrees, so.
66 degrees ambient air temperature, 74 degrees on the track surface. That is in Fahrenheit, although we are in Austria. I don't know the conversion for it, but it's the sign.
For the lead.
Goodness! Timothy Freeze Larson into the wall after contact with Kevin Jansu Foster. That was a battle for the lead, and it will end the number one's race early. My, oh my, the right rear completely disconnected. Going to try to limp it back around to the pit stall, but that is race day over. A look to the inside. Tries to work to the outside for Jansu Foster. Maximize the entry of that corner. Timothy Freeze Larson just held onto that line. Wasn't going to give an inch. Jansu Foster makes the contact. It is unfortunate for both drivers there. A big hit it was to the wall. Foster able to make it through relatively unscathed.
They're both using push to pass here, but we'll slow it down a little bit. You'll see Larson gets to his left-hand side. He knows that he's there, but Foster's wanting to take this entry into the corner. This is where it goes wrong. And anytime you make contact in an open wheel car like this, it's going to throw the car up. The weight distribution's already on razor's edge, and then you use that tire to kind of toss that car. It bounces off and hard impact to the left-hand wall. That's going to end the day here for a driver that probably had the potential to win this.
Timothy Freeze Larson, at the current moment, will finish out in P18 on the night after a heavy contention for a race win. Like you just mentioned, that leaves JT Smeaton now 3 seconds still off of the rear spoiler of Jansu Foster in the 4 machine. Coming up the hill, down into turn 1. I will say, you know, as everybody knows by this point, I love to get out on track and turn some laps myself and figure out what the drivers can expect. And I honestly have to say turn 1, and I believe this is considered turn 3 here at Red Bull Ring, were 2 of the toughest spots for me to nail down that entry. But on board with Rohan Sanir, just clicking off of the overtake button, down to 123 seconds remaining for Sanir, but doing a fantastic job holding closely to JT Smeaton, only 0.6 of a second away from P2.
This is that section we just saw go wrong a moment ago. Here's a pass for 11th position. Chablis and Rugaview, I believe is how you pronounce that.
Nicolaj in the number 2.
Man, they're duking it out. Man. This is a dogfight.
This looks like something you would certainly see in the sky. The agility of these race cars is unmatched. So we dive down into the last few corners of the circuit here. Turn 14, back down the front stretch. A little wide there for Chablis.
Dirty air got him on that one.
Both drivers currently unable to use the overtake pass button. 14 seconds remain for Chablis, 27 seconds remain for Nicolaj. But the 2 has separated just enough that that worry is not quite there. Diving down into turn 3. And look at this, we're getting closer to the top 10 battle as well. Brett Greaves, Larry Johnson holding on to 9th and 10th at the moment, but Nicolaj and Chablis have both been on a tear the last few laps and closing in to be a threat for a top 10 spot.
Yeah, last time by, they were almost a second faster. Didn't get a valid lap time there for Chablis because of the off track, but it was, yeah, a full second that they had made up on 10th with Johnson and Greaves. Still not in the ballpark, though, of these leaders. That was a close call, though.
Close call indeed. Nicolaj around the 20 of Larry Johnson, up into P10 now. So there's that speed coming into play. Brett Greaves up the road just a touch. The 2 was on the push to pass button there to get around Larry Johnson, I believe. He's now off and on the cooldown. 100 seconds, nearly contact. Do not want to lose that front wing here.
Johnson's braking zone was a lot later. He's doing it again. He is braking way later, trying to get any advantage he can into the entry of the corner. Rugaview is kind of blocking that, though. He's keeping him from getting to the inside. And like I said, you don't want to tear the nose cone off this car. You break that front splitter and you'll be in the pits with Tavares and Larson. We've had a few drivers actually exit out of this session. Nate Berlin is also out.
That rain is closing in. Taking a look at the radar, we are moments away from seeing the sprinkles on the track. Once that sunshine goes away, expect it to get a little wet. We're just about, well, a little over halfway through the race now. It is going by very, very quickly. These drivers will want to click off as many laps as possible. Can't tell you how heavy the rain will be here, but once it starts, it will take us to the checkered flag. I can tell you that for certain. Again, only moments away from seeing that unfold. Chablis had a great move there to the inside of Larry Johnson, able to make his way up to P10. Brett Greaves still holding down the 9th spot. Nicolaj Rugaview about 1.2 seconds behind. Up the road, the 18 of Daniel Radmilkovic. He's been working on the 7 of Max Gould for that 6th position. A little bit further ahead of them, Victor Odd has been trying to play catch-up with Marcos Allerson for the top 4 spot. We've got a close one unfolding here. A move to the inside. The 18 has the line. Can he make it stick? The inside of that corner will upset the right rear of that car. It's very easy to spin out of turn 3, but man, the 18 holds it down perfectly. The battle doesn't go away, however. Max Gould took a look to the inside, couldn't quite get to the inside to make the pass. And that'll settle it there for P6 for the moment.
And we've got a black flag for possibly cutting the track too many times. Trying to look here for an incident count. I'm not really receiving that information, but black flag nonetheless.
It's going to be on Max Shabley, currently running in the 11th spot. Taking it back on my replay here, it does look to be another off track, causing that. Too many incident points here for Shabley. Fortunate to see, was having a pretty fair night here, running in the middle of the pack. Started out in 10th, was running 11th. Will now have to serve I believe that'll be a pass-through penalty for reaching the incident count limit.
Yeah, I think if it was maybe cutting the track and he'd have to slow down for a few seconds, it would have cleared itself already. But he's continued to go around and it hasn't changed. So I would say it was off track, getting to that incident count. You get a 1X usually for cutting the track, so he's done it 17 times in 18 laps. I'd say that's probably the same corner as the culprit.
More times than not, you could pretty well piece that one together.
Yeah.
One corner can be very troublesome at times, and it's hard to really nail it down and find that rhythm.
Makes you wonder, though, Logan, how many of these other guys are having the same problem? Will we see more black flags later on?
It is very likely. We've seen a lot of contact made already. We started the race with a big incident out of turn 1. I would say at least half of the field had some sort of a incident point solely from that. As Max Shabley brings it down pit road here. Keep an eye on that 11. Again, I believe it'll just be a pass-through penalty. Indeed it is. Coming back to the cone on the exit, back up off of the pit speed limit. Mind the gap as he comes out of pit road and right back onto the track in P14. So to lose only 3 positions after a pass-through penalty, he's lost a lot of ground. He's 11 seconds back now from Benjamin David running in 13th, but still has 5.5 seconds over the 22 of Jack McCauley in 15th.
This is Greaves that just got passed. They were fighting for around the 10th, 9th, 10th position. But I was noticing, you mentioned the fall back to 14th there. Shabley probably, feels like it's last place, though, because a lot of these guys that are behind him are either damaged off the track earlier in this race or just maybe a little off the pace overall. You're looking back here with Jack McCauley, and he's started back in 21st, so he's worked up a lot of positions already, 6 spots gained, but he is 4.5 seconds back still from a driver that had to make a pass-through.
Incidents off pace, it's anything can be at play here. Is just behind, or just ahead of that rather, Larry Johnson loses a spot to Simon Scholes, back to the 12th position. For Johnson, Scholes up to 11th. Dan Yang, Jack McCauley do end up switching spots as we pan away from that battle, unfortunately. Just a little too early. I'll take the fault on that one, and I'm still I'm still keeping an eye on this radar as well. It looks like we might actually have enough time to beat the rain here. Our lap time still in the low 1 minute 11 second bracket. Jansu Foster nearly into the 1 minute 10s and still has 194 seconds of push to pass remaining. I would say that with only 8 laps to go this time by, it's going to be very close on the rain. We will likely not see the tire switch happen today.
That's a gamble you're going to have to take. You know, these guys don't have live radar. I know some of them have live spotters that are able to look at this information and relay it to the drivers, but most of the guys out here, they're a solo show. They just don't know, and you got to kind of take that gamble. You knew the forecast. iRacing's kind of giving you the information, an estimate of when it could happen, and that could be the call. Some of these guys come down pit road for those rain tires with 5 to go because it starts sprinkling, and one driver back in 10th position stays out on slicks, and it just sprinkles all the way to the end, and he ends up winning the race.
One of the things we'll have to keep an eye on too, if the winds pick up, currently showing about a 5-mile-an-hour northwestern wind. So that would be coming down the front stretch with these drivers into turn 1. That could have a little bit of extra tailwind to add to the speed into the corner. If we do see wet conditions, we might see some of these drivers end up blasting right through turn 1. So we'll have to keep that in mind. So we're riding on board with 5th place Victor Odd in the 17 machine, trying to catch up to Marcos Alerson, just a little less than a half second behind. Both drivers still with plenty of push to pass remaining. It actually falls in favor of Alerson by about 25 seconds. So Odd will have to play this perfectly if he wants to gain one more spot before the checkered flag waves. So we dive down into turn 13. It's one of my favorite sectors of the course. Very smooth, very fast pace, and you can keep a lot of momentum turning down into turn 14 and screaming across the front stretch here, about 175 to 177 miles per hour into turn 1.
Logan, I got to ask, is that how you were taking that final corner in your practice session? Were you driving the whole car on the rumble strips after the final turn?
I absolutely was. That was the only way I could even think to be remotely in contention, but still, even our drivers towards the back of the pack at the 1 minute 12 second range were still faster than myself. So I can't say much other than that's why I talk about the race car instead of drive the race car.
Same here, buddy. Same here.
We
6-7 laps left here. Yeah, 6-7 laps to go. Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. And been on the iRacing service since 2013. And my, how it's evolved. We weren't even talking about rain when I started. That wasn't a thing. The only rain that we got was when your power went out and you lost connection. So that was the rain shortened races that we had back in the day. Now, you know, weather, telemetry, all the improvements that the tire model has, the cars, the physics, and ultimately the graphics come full 360 back to where we are now. They say that iRacing's dated, but man, these refreshes have looked more and more realistic and beautiful, and it was already beautiful.
Absolutely, the graphics game has changed completely. On board now, on the top of JT Smeaton, still holding down that second place spot. Rohan Sneer in P3, a little bit of buffer room, nearly 2 seconds between second and third place, and it's 3.5 seconds back from Rohan Sneer to Marcos Alerson for our top 3. So barring anything crazy happening from this point on, Jansu Foster, JT Smeaton, Rohan Sneer, they have showed a great effort here tonight. They will be looking to take away a podium at the Red Bull Ring. On board again with Victor Odd in P5. Still trying to gain some ground here. Neither driver has used any push to pass since the last time we were on this battle. 150 seconds remain for Alerson. 127 seconds remain for Odd. Who will be the one to use it in the most efficient way possible? There's the rain. There it is between turns 1 and 2. We are 5 to go, and we have droplets on the track.
Yep. That's where I was talking about some of these guys deeper in the field. If they don't have the advantage, do they take a gamble and staying out? I think Foster's got enough of a cushion. He can afford to maybe back it up a little bit. 5.5 seconds.
It all depends on how heavy this precipitation gets. We've got some dark green here in the radar. But again, I'm not sure if that will make it in time before the checkered flag. For the current moment, our drivers will elect to stay on the dry tire and try to finish this one out. 4 to go at the line for Jansu Foster. Will it be enough? The track temperature has not changed. The wind has not picked up at all.
Just as you said that, it came down into green. I think it's came down 2 overall. But it's starting to kind of be spotty. The rain's not full, so I think this is a good call for Foster. I think I'd stay out.
Once that spray pattern off of the back of the car starts to eclipse the top of the wing, I think is when these drivers will really have to consider switching over to those wet tires, especially once we get into some of the lower sections of the track where it might hold a little bit more water. Regardless, these drivers will have to be very careful on the rumble strips. That will be the first slicked up surface on the track. See them be much easier on the acceleration and the braking when they're maximizing the corner entry and exits.
I think Allerson came out with wet tires. He just hit pit road. So
you would be correct on that. Marcos Allerson in the 13th position, the only driver on the wet tires. The first driver. This could be very, very important, but with so little time remaining, only 3 laps to go, Allerson doesn't have a whole lot of time to bring those wet tires up to temperature. He'll be still on a rather cold tire for about 2.5 laps, so it's very risky. Loses positioning, but it could still pay off.
Yeah, if it starts to rain harder, these guys up in the top 10 could start to lose control. They might have to back these cars way up. It's so spotty where it's actually raining. You can see that it's moved through parts of turns 4 and 5, and it's not raining here anymore. But you get to the other side, it's pouring.
Jansu Foster did have enough time of dry weather to get into the 1 minute and 10 second bracket. 1 minute, 10 seconds, 0.921. The only driver able to get there, JT Smeaton, very close. 1 minute, 11.034. Down across the front stretch. 2 to go for Jansu Foster, who still retains the lead, nearly 6 seconds over JT Smeaton. Rohan Sneer has fallen back to 4 seconds behind Smeaton. Our top 5 separated by 20 seconds from 1st to 5th.
This is going to be close.
Jansu Foster taking it very easy down there through turn 3. But still, even got faster. JT Smeaton does join the 1 minute, 10 second bracket. Jansu Foster down to 1 minute, 10 seconds, 0.729 even in the wet. So these dry tires are still working out. Does not look like the call by Marcos Allerson will pay off after all. We would need an all-out downpour here. Is Jansu Foster working into turn 13. And then it's just one more time around the Red Bull Ring. The race has come and gone. White flag is out. Jansu Foster with 14 more corners before taking home yet another win on the Saturday broadcast. Dives down into turn 1, hits the rumble strip on the outside of the corner. Not letting up whatsoever, using the push to pass to its fullest extent for the last lap.
What a gutsy call, though, to stay out here and know that the weather was going to hold off long enough. None of these drivers, with the exception of Marcos Allerson, came in and got wet tires, so that ends up putting Allerson out of the top 5. We were watching Victor Odd, who was probably going to end up at his back porch before the end of this. He was 2 or 3 tenths back. He gets a free pass for that. But it's Foster who's ultimately dominated the day. He's still pushing this car Looks like he stretched the lead out to a full 6 seconds before we come out of the final corner.
And for the last time tonight, the right-hander of turn 13, keeping the speed off of the rumble strips that time, playing it safe down into turn 14, does not exit wide, and across the start-finish line, Kevin Yansu Foster is your race winner at the Red Bull Ring. Started on the pole, led every single lap here tonight. What a fantastic race. Once again, the skill always on display for Yansu Foster.
We go back here with a very close battle at the line. This was for the 7th position. Max Van Gool, Ranson, Ludwig Ranson, very, very close. About a 1/10 of a second separating those two. And this was the unfortunate situation. Marcos Alerson coming across the line now. Remember, he was up in the top 5, back to 13th for him.
He did make quite the recovery, however. I believe, if I recall correctly, gets the front left knocked off. But Alerson came back out of the pits roughly 13 seconds behind Larry Johnson, I believe, and made his way down to just 9.9 seconds behind the 20. So it's still a good drive. The call was there. The race just needed to be a little bit longer. I think it would have paid off a lot better for Marcos Alerson if we just had about 5 to 10 more laps even. But we saw the race win happen. Let's take it through our race results. See where everybody else finished up on the afternoon. Kevin Yansu Foster, the number 4, takes it home. Started first, led every lap, and finished first. JT Smeaton in P2, up 1 spot from the 3rd spot on the grid. Rohan Sanir in the 9 takes home 3rd with Victor Odd working his way up a little bit more into P4. Daniel Radmilvik in the 18 takes home P5. Nikolaus Rogivu in the 2 takes home 6. Max Van Gool in the 7 gets 7th on the night. Ludwig Ranson in the 10 takes home P8. Brett Greaves holds down P9 after he finally got there. Biggest mover of the race, up 9 spots for the 13. Last but not least, in the top 10, it is the 15 of Simon Scholes.
11 spots going to go to Benjamin David. Larry Johnson will finish in 12th. 9 positions gained there for David. Marcus Alerson, who we mentioned there, taking wet tires. He comes home in 13th. A little bit of a recovery. Then you go back to Max Shabley in 14th position. Dan Gang in 15th position with Jack McCulley in 16th. Nate Berlin in 17th. Then you have Timothy Ferris Larson, a driver who was competing for the lead. That could have been our lead change of the day. He's going to end up in 18th with a damaged race car. 19th to Tristan Hellman in the 23. And then it's Artur and the 19 finishing in 20th.
Artur Kazamirski there in P20. Valerio Tavares in the 21st position with Miguel Fachado in P22. Elliott Cott in the 14 gets called out early. Finishes in the 23rd spot with Dennis Cornu. Rounding out our 24-car field. Apologize, looks like I've got some different timing and scoring. Cornu
I think it's
in 22nd, Fachado in 23rd, and Cott in 24th.
That's based off of time that they had actually left the session versus time that they were on pit road. So the telemetry a little bit off there, but the final results I think were correct on the screen either way. The race recap: 0 cautions, 0 lead changes, and we might have a couple drivers that decide to come in here into the broadcast booth. I see a couple of them down there right now, Logan, and you're a little more familiar with these names and some of these guys that have their SF Formula names, and then they have their Discord names. So I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out who is who.
Absolutely. We're going to start with our second place finisher. That will be JT Smeaton here joining us in the booth. JT, do you got a copy, brother?
Hello.
Well, man, a fantastic race here. You started out in third, able to collect one more spot after the contact with Jansu Foster and Timothy Fries Larson, but you come away smooth and clean. You're well out ahead of the carnage that happened in the exit of turn one. But, ultimately, I think the biggest question here that I could ask is what was the thought process coming to the last few laps, knowing that rain was just coming over the hilltops?
Yeah, it was definitely pretty sketchy. I was at one point I thought the rain wasn't gonna come, but then with 5 laps left, the rain hit the track first at turn three, I believe. So I didn't really feel the effects of the rain too much until the last. Um, it was definitely very sketchy. I actually almost missed the corner totally on one of those laps. But yeah, it was just really keeping it clean, keeping it on the track. But yeah,
Yeah, it was very difficult. We both had the same thought process at one point then, because I do recall mentioning that we might have taken the checkered flag before the rain hit, and also mentioning the potential for drivers to possibly miss some braking points. So at least I'm on the same wavelength as the drivers out here. Makes me feel a little bit more confident up here in the booth. But Bradley, did you have anything for our second place finisher?
I mean, just that gamble. I know a lot of you committed to staying out here on these slicks, but there was another scenario in this race. The very first lap, we had 4 wide into turn one, and were you kind of avoiding that as well? Did you want to just kind of ease your way through that part in that first lap? I know that's the approach a lot of drivers have.
yeah, exactly. My goals for this race was really just pick my battles. Of course, Timothy and Kevin are on a totally another level, so I knew after lap one that my battle was really with the guys behind. Rojan had some really good pace throughout the whole race, but yeah, it was mainly just picking the battles, trying not to get too caught up in contact.
Well, you did a great job of that, and coming home P2 on a Saturday couldn't be, something to be disappointed with by any means. JT, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to before we get on to next week?
Yeah, first off, shout out to Kevin for the win. He's at some really good pace, so congrats to him on the win. And big thank you to my family, my mom, dad, sister, and my friends for always supporting me. But yeah, thank you guys. See
Awesome. Well, congratulations, my friend, and we will see you next time around.
you next time. Have a good one, guys.
JT's meeting everybody, and we do have Kevin Foster in the waiting room ready to go for his first place interview. Kevin Foster, you've got Logan and Bradley up here in the VSPEED booth. You have a copy.
Hello, Logan. Hello, Bradley. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic, especially after watching you dominate yet another race here tonight, especially to end it in the rain. We kind of had a similar question for JT, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it for you as well. What was the thought process behind staying on the dry tires? We only saw one driver come down, ended up losing quite a few positions out of the top five, so it didn't pay off. But did you have a lot of practice in the lightly damp situation? What was going on?
To answer your question, no, absolutely zero practice in the wet. And to be frank, like I've done pretty minimal running in the rain since it came out on iRacing. It's definitely one thing I wish I did a bit more of. So I got a bit freaked out when I first when I saw the first raindrops starting to fall, and immediately moved off of all the curbs and do the things that you would do typically when it starts to rain, but noticed that the lap time was still there, the delta I could still chase, and moved back onto the curbs, and there was still quite a bit of grip. Seems like the rain didn't affect the track that much. The car still felt very good. And then maybe it was only about the last lap that I noticed that the spray coming off the one lapped car and then the braking zone just almost completely went off, and knew that it was time to just like dial it down a couple tenths and just bring home the victory.
That was one of the first things I noticed as the rain started to come down. I think it was the second or third lap under the wet conditions. You actually set your fastest lap of the race. So seemed to play in favor of the number 4 tonight. Bradley, do you have anything for our race winner?
Well, I just want to go back. I know that there's going to be some talk about it here in the race chat and maybe post race. You guys all seem to mingle with each other week to week. So any hard feelings there? I know you and Larson got together in that corner. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, he had an excellent run coming out of the turn 3 hairpin, I believe, just at the top of the hill. Had to throw my OTS on to go defensive, and when we hit the brakes, I thought I was straight, and the next thing I noticed was Timothy spinning off in the rear view. So I didn't even feel any contact in my wheel. It's a bit of a shame to kind of chalk it down to netcode, but when you're racing at this level and you can't give up any inch, like had he been maybe even an inch or 2 inches further to the left, we probably wouldn't have netcoded and he would have been fine. But just in that one instance, it seems like he came off far worse. Like there was literally no contact on my end. So I feel bad for the guy because he's really quick and I'd been looking to race him. We've always missed each other when it comes to the broadcasting races in terms of scheduling and availability. And so to finally have a bit of a battle with him on track was fun for as long as it was. But yeah. Hopefully it's not the last time that we get a chance to race each other.
I will say in the YouTube chat, Larson seemed to be very receptive, not too hard of feelings, it appears, from that end of the contact. But Kevin Foster, you're no stranger to it. Who do you have to say thanks to for your win here at the Red Bull Ring?
Of course, got to thank my family first and foremost. I think my dad is even downstairs watching on the live stream, so big shout out to him. Great way to spend a Saturday afternoon racing with you guys. Got to thank my girlfriend. She's always watching. She's always been a huge support, and we get to share this hobby. She even hops into the sim and does a few laps, and is not a bad peddler herself. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely, it is. Well, congratulations again, Kevin. We will most likely see you next week at the Fuji International Speedway.
Absolutely. Take care, guys, and thank you as always for the great broadcasting coverage.
Absolutely our pleasure. Kevin Foster, everybody, your race winner for the Super Formula B Open Series at the Red Bull Ring. What a race we had on our hands. There was drama, there was passing, there was finally some rain on the surface. Bradley Cooper, the first time joining me up here in the booth, or myself joining you. What were your thoughts here tonight?
Well, I want to apologize there for that graphic I just put up right after Foster thanked us for awesome coverage. Telemetry there. Sometimes you get the camera on a car and it changes the graphic, and it was not rubbing it into Larson there, but it did have his name as the winner, so I apologize for that. We were just going back on that recap there. I guess we unpacked. We saw rain for the first time here, I believe, on VSPEED. That's first for me anyway. And the SF23 looking to have more of the same. I mean, weather is always going to be one of those variables, and I would like to see that battle between Foster and Larson come back when we go to Fuji.
And it most likely will. Two of the top drivers in this series. They will most certainly be out here to battle it out wheel to wheel. And, you might see the shoe fall on the other foot. You might see it take it all the way to the very end. But that will do it for our broadcast here tonight. Big thank you to Graham Crackers Racing once again. And of course, Race Ready 3D, and as always, simracingnation.com. For everybody behind the scenes at VSPEED, Bradley Cooper, of course, Adam Baker, Morgan Cook, Eddie Smith. My name is Logan Threlkeld. Big shout out to you, Bradley Cooper, once again for being here, stepping up and taking over the production truck. The cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. We will see you all next week for the Saturday coverage of the Fuji International Speedway with the Super Formula 23 B Open Series 1 week from today. As for now, good night, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.